Hey, Jack. I think we're going to be speaking early because it says public comment and agenda items. That's number 3. So the last one is non-agenda items.
Looks like 1 minute to go.
The boardroom audio is on. We have Fraz and 2 staff members in the room. And the person with the phone number that ends in 353, could you identify yourself?
Mo Iqbal.
Oh, okay, Mo, I do see you. There's somebody with the phone number that ends in 353, 630 and ends in 353.
Pat Jagger.
Thanks, Pat.
He's not just somebody. He's a lawyer. Don't hold it against him.
Well, he's on the gravy train, man.
Hey.
Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the King County Transportation Meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. We have a fairly light agenda. I'll remind everybody that we are fully remote today, so when you want to speak, please state your name and keep that in mind. We have just a couple of resolutions, and we do have a discussion on an issue in St. Charles at an intersection. So let's begin with approving the minutes of December 15th, 2020. I need a motion and a second.
Berman move.
Okay, I got to sort that out. Try it again.
Berman
Iqbal
move.
moves.
Okay, Berman moves and Kenyon seconds. Is that correct?
That's okay.
Okay, we'll
Cope's
take.
present.
Are you going to do roll call, Drew, or no?
Yeah, let's
That's Barbara.
let's do roll call
Keep
first.
an eye on him, Barb. He's
Yep.
stepping out.
Okay, so let's do roll call.
Okay, attendance, Berman,
Here.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Guy's present.
Copey,
Cope's present.
Martin,
Martin here.
Wonicky,
Monique present.
Igbo,
Iqbal present.
Fraz.
Here.
This is
Perfect.
Copey. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, Ken Shepro.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as an ex officio member of the committee, I would ask that I be included in the minutes and the roll for attendance purposes.
Okay,
Okay. Shepro?
Here,
Thank you.
thank you.
okay, and we have a motion and a second, moved by Dr. Iqbal, second by Mr. Kenyon to approve the minutes of December 15th, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to play the game.
Berman?
Yes.
For the minutes? Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Guys, yes.
Copey?
Opie, yes.
Martin?
Martin, yes.
Iqbal?
Iqbal, yes.
Winnicke?
Winnicke, yes.
Shepro?
I don't vote unless I'm needed for a quorum.
Okay. Okay, so passes.
Okay, and then I believe Mr. Berman was a yes.
Okay.
I heard him in the beginning. Okay, minutes are approved. Public comment, I have two people signed up to speak, a Jack Frigo and a Louis Abona. I believe they're speaking on our discussion item, if I'm not mistaken. So I will hold their comments until we're on that issue. Are they present today?
Yes, this is Louis Abuna. I'm on.
Okay, so we'll hold you until item 7B. Item number 4 is December Transportation Committee financial report. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, you have the various items of the financial report. The only thing I was going to mention real quick is that there are the memo that you see on the screen now. That's the memo relative to revenue and expense trends. And then we also have the fund status report. As I shared last month, this is the report that generally shows us where our revenues, expenses, fund balances, and contractual obligations are. We also have year-end reports included in the packet. So if there's any questions, you can either ask now or feel free to call me at any time if you have any questions relative to the county transportation finances.
Okay, if there's no questions for Tom, or if you do, you could talk to him directly. Let's move on to item number 5, the maintenance report.
The maintenance report is there. As of January 7th, we've been out 9 times with an estimated salt usage of 2,700 tons. And that compares to last year. We always try to give you an estimate. There's currently no concerns with the amount of salt that we have on hand. The use of salt because of the ice events this year so far has been a little higher than typical. That's all I have at this point in time.
Okay, any questions for Tom on the maintenance report? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, planning and programming report. Back to Tom.
The planning and program report, the first thing on there is the 2050 long-range plan. We're in the final review of that, and we've gone through the public comments in regards to the draft plan. We're also working on the interactive web page that we're developing for the 2050 plan. Just wanted to show you real quick too. In your packet, you have a sheet that looks kind of like this that's on your display. It goes through the various public comments that we've received, and we've received quite a few of them. Most of the comments deal with local issues and aren't really part of our county overall transportation planning. So a lot of the comments, there's no action that needs to be taken, but we will be talking to the local agencies in regards to some of the comments that we received. We also plan to meet with the Farm Bureau and with the Village of Sugar Grove based upon a number of comments that they had, just kind of work through some of their thoughts and concerns. And so that's currently where we're at. We're making the changes that are noted in the plan or in the comments where we've noted an action. And then we're also looking at getting together with those 2 entities that I mentioned. That's all I have in regards to the 2050 plan. The last item on our planning programming update is our Kane Kendall Council of Mayors newsletter. If you get a chance, take a look at the entire newsletter. There's a lot of good information. The primary thing I wanted to highlight here is on the first page, and it's the funding opportunity for transportation projects. We're working on what they call the congestion mitigation air quality submittals, as well as the TAP submittals, the Transportation Alternative Program. So we're working on those with the various municipalities, and we'll be submitting a number of projects from the county as well as the municipalities of Kane and Kendall. And that's all I have for the planning and programming report.
Okay, any questions for Tom on that report?
Mr. Shepro, Mr. Chairman, I would urge people to give special focus to the photograph of the executive director that's in the newsletter.
I will try to get a better photograph in the future.
Oh, I wasn't dissing it. I just thought it was an outstanding photograph.
Oh, good, good.
I assume that's Tom. It's not up on our
Yes.
screen. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
He looks like a Secret Service agent.
Okay.
It was a sunny day. That was at the opening of Illinois 47 I-90 interchange.
Sounds good. Okay, let's move on to item number 7A, traffic operations and permitting report.
There's a couple items here, and I'll just briefly mention them. We are working with the City of Geneva under the access considerations and agreements towards the bottom of the memo relative to their Couts Road extension down to Fabian Parkway. We'll need to eventually bring an intergovernmental agreement forward on that. And then the Randall at 64, we're going to have a brief discussion on that as the next item.
Okay, any questions for Tom? Okay, we'll move on to item 7B, which is our main item for the day here. This is just an overview. We're not really looking for any kind of decisions or consensus. This has to do with the intersection of Randall Road and Route 64, primarily the northwest corner. Some of you may remember that the redesign and reconstruction of that intersection was the largest intersection project in county history. It involved moving back buildings and so forth to get all the lanes that were required in there. The only open lot on the intersection now is at the northwest corner. It's somewhat affiliated to the properties to the north of there, which is the Mercedes-Benz dealer. And now there's an Audi dealer to the north of that being constructed. There will be a new intersection, I believe, between those two at some point that will connect in to the west. And there'll be a frontage road serving this property in question. But I believe it's a gas station that's proposed there. We do have two people signed up to speak, Jack Frigo and Louis Abona. I think I'll save their comments till at the end of the presentation. So, you know, the gist of the discussion is that they're looking for a possible right in, right out if you're on Randall Road southbound coming up to Route 64. And, you know, there's just some considerations, engineering and safety considerations to do that. So this has come up on and off over the last year and a half, and it's come up recently again. And I'm going to turn it over to Tom to give the presentation, then we'll have discussion after that, and then we'll have our two speakers make their comments. And I would remind the speakers that this is a comment situation, so you're allowed up to 3 minutes, and there's no real questions and answers as far as your involvement. Tom?
Yeah, so I thought what I'd start out with, just kind of in order to make sure that everybody understands how access considerations are brought forward. I'll start out with the Kane County Access Control Regulations. The control regulations for access was adopted in 1989, and then it was revised in 2004. You see, this is a picture of the front page of the regulations. The regulations are also for permitting, so in its entirety, it's about an inch thick, and it deals with a lot of design aspects. The purpose of the access control regulations is to ensure the safety as well as the orderly and efficient use of county highways. It's to help safely carry large volumes of traffic on county arterials and to also provide safe access to adjacent land uses and to minimize costs to the taxpayer through good planning. The impacts, if we have unplanned access, it reduces highway safety and capacity. Unregulated access increases access delay and congestion, and it results in the early obsolescence and costly improvements to roadways. Under the access regs, we basically look at two types of roadways. One is the county highway aspect, and then we also have adopted county freeways. The county highways are generally under the administrative purview of the county engineer. And so we have permitting staff and engineers that review all access in regards to county highways. And that authority is via state statute. Relative to county limited access freeways, and we have a few of them in the county, Randall Road and Orchard Road and Kirk Road and Fabian Parkway. These are all county limited access freeways by state law. Those roads, for any access, it requires county board approval. And so the county board reviews and approves. And in the sections that are listed there, the county board, the first one, 101, the county board may designate and establish county freeways to regulate the use thereof, as well as the intersection highway, roads, and streets. And then in section 102, the county board may deny their respective consent relative to access or to specify and enforce the terms and conditions under which ingress and egress may be provided. Moving on, the county access regulations, all access requests are subject to the county board's policy and design standards, and that's what these regulations are. The regulations provide leadership in planning. They provide a consistent response to municipalities and developers so that the county is not arbitrary in their responses. It promotes safety, minimizes congestion caused by accesses, and maintains the integrity and efficiency of the highway. It also recognizes that many of these roads are national highway system roads. Randall Road, and there is a map to the right of the bullets that shows the various roads that are part of the national highway system. And you can see that Orchard Road and Randall Road are part of that, as well as Kirk Road and Fabian. So all of our limited access freeways are part of the national highway system, and they're also part of an adopted strategic regional arterial system where there's higher design standards and criteria that are used in order to maintain the safety and efficiency of those roads. As part of the access regulations, there's a lot of things in there, but the primary thing I wanted to deal with today was the intersection spacing and traffic circulation. The regulations call for certain spacing requirements, third to half mile spacing for freeway and SRA standards, and also for freeway SRA commercial areas, quarter mile to third mile spacing. And then it gets into additional spacing criteria because not only does it deal with county arterials and freeways, but it also deals with township roads and many different aspects. And relative to traffic circulation, whenever the county grants access to a freeway or a strategic regional arterial, we try to do our best to make sure that we're meeting the minimum spacing criteria of quarter mile, and we also try to design it in ways that it safely accommodates perchance like a right in, right out that you see here on the display. And the county board also has a right to be involved in the circulation, internal circulation, and so we try to do a lot of planning with all the municipalities up and down the corridor to ensure that that's being looked at appropriately. In right in, right out spacing, there is criteria that is within the access regulations, and again, so that the county is not arbitrary, we really stick to these criteria as best we can. There are circumstances where the county board might have a variance that they grant, but it's usually only if it's generally meeting the criteria of the spacing requirements within the regulations. When you look at the regulations, you will see that there's a difference between the access corner clearance on the approach to the intersection versus leaving the intersection. We call that upstream and downstream. And you can see by this display here that on the upstream, we are much more cautious in how we approach access on the upstream. And then on the downstream, there's a little bit more leeway. On the upstream, there tends to be a lot more going on in regards to intersection operations, and also in regards to protecting the safety of the motoring public. And we call this upstream, downstream area the functional area of the intersection. And in order to minimize impacts to safety and intersection operations, good engineering and planning practices is to deny or to do away with ingress and egress within the functional areas of an intersection. There have been some cases where the county board has granted variances to allow a right-in only, as long as that there was reasonable separation between the intersection and the upstream approach on the right-in only. So there have been a few cases where the county board has granted variances, but generally the criteria that are here have been strict criteria that the county board has stuck to, I believe now for about 33 years. Well, for sure, no matter what, since the regulations were adopted in 1989 and a few years before that. Planning and intergovernmental agreements, one of the primary ways that we grant access is through intergovernmental agreements, and those intergovernmental agreements usually are done ahead of time with the municipalities in order to make sure that there are planning documents in place. And so you can see on the right here, this map. This is a map of the various intergovernmental agreements that we have in place. And some of those are access related, some are jurisdictional maintenance, or the way that we might share maintenance with the municipality, and some are cost sharing agreements. I believe in total we have about 180 some intergovernmental agreements where we're working with municipalities on various projects as well as on access control. A general overview of access policies and IGAs. The IGA typically deals with access control management and intersection spacing. It almost always points to the access regulations. And if you go down Randall Road, Orchard, Kirk, and Fabian, you will see that the spacing is generally in alignment. The county board has been consistent for over 30 years on the way they approach access. It also preserves right-of-way. So there's a minimum right-of-way protection that the county board has adopted on all of these roads, but they also deal with, there are situations where we need additional right-of-way. So it has a minimum right-of-way protection. The requirements of turn lane improvements are dealt with in the agreements, intersection signalization, street lighting, future roadway improvements. There are times where we have to get involved with joint agreements with municipalities for some future improvements, or the developer as part of the overall improvements along the roadway might do improvements and get impact fee credits. There's also setbacks of berms and detentions so that it meets the 2050 requirements of planning. Roadway and utility easements are incorporated for like sidewalks and various utilities. And then pedestrian, bike, transit is usually dealt with at one level or another, as well as landscaping. Now, the reason I'm kind of giving this overview is that we generally have a new committee, and so I wanted to make sure the committee was aware of our access control regulations, and that staff works directly with those regulations as well as the IGAs that are adopted by the county board, and that's how access is dealt with on our freeway system. The reason that I bring all this forward too is because the city of St. Charles has recently requested that the county consider a new access location, and they've asked us to possibly amend the intergovernmental agreement to accommodate that access. So there is a copy of that resolution. What it is, this is an aerial. It shows the general area of where the proposed gas station is that the chair mentioned, as well as the Route 64 and then Randall intersection. In the intergovernmental agreement we have with the city of St. Charles, the agreement basically said that the county as well as the city would do good planning and good engineering in regards to Randall Road. And as part of the planning aspect, this whole area in green, the city and the county came up with a concept in order to adequately address this area for planning. And what it did was it allowed for a connection, a signalized connection at Woodward Drive and Randall Road. And then it took the old accesses that were along this area, because all the buildings were torn down. It took the old accesses and made one right in, right out at this location. So there's a full signalized intersection that was agreed to and one right in, right out. Everything meeting the requirements of the county board. And then internally, the city agreed to do good planning and make sure that there was a good internal circulation for the development of this site. This shows an old aerial. Again, all these buildings on the west side of Randall Road were torn down, and the city and the county came to an agreement to remove some of these old access points and to create good new access points that meet design criteria. This is what we do for all municipalities up and down the Fox River Valley area on our freeway system, is that we do good planning and we try to improve the safety of the existing arterial. In such cases, over the decades, we have removed dozens and dozens of existing access points and made sure that the new plans showed good, safe, efficient access points. As part of the planning in the document, there was an agreement between the city and county. This is at the north end of this document here is Woodward Drive Extended, where there will be a new signal going in the future here. And then there were access easements that were created so that the three areas of this area could get access to the right in, right out, as well as to Woodward, as well as to Route 64. So the tan and orange area here were the easements that the city created. So this is a little bit different than what was in the intergovernmental agreement, but the city said that they would work to ensure that this would be the access, and the city agreed that they would not allow a right in, right out at this location. So they are coming back and requesting that that they would be now allowed the right in, right out at this location. So we are at this point in time, we're looking at the various the request, the resolution. There's, as the chair mentioned, there's no determination to be made today. The plan is to evaluate what might be permitted here at this location. There has been reviews that have occurred by the city's consultant, and HLR reviewed the site traffic study from the developer, In their study under number 3, HLR says that there's a minor safety and operational concern with how close the access is to the intersection and conflict with the high volume of southbound traffic movements, the right turn lane and through lane volumes. And then in number 6, the HLR agrees with the conclusions of the developer's traffic study with a concern of the potential safety and operational issues for the right in, right out access. This is something that we fully concur with HLR, that this is a safety and operational issue at the staff level. As directed by the county board, we continue to say no to the right in, right out. This right in, right out has come before the county board and the transportation committee over the last couple decades. And over those couple decades, it has been denied all along, as well as staff has been directed to say no to the right in, right out. You can see operationally that there are backups that occur, and this is again on the upstream. This is part of the functional area of the intersection. So when the signals during the peak hour back up, you can see the traffic backs up at this intersection. And this red line here is generally where the proposed right in, right out is. So there are some concerns relative to rear end accidents as well as side swipes, that those types of accidents would increase at this location if a right in, right out was approved at this location. Couple other pictures. The first one was a AM peak hour. This picture is a PM peak hour, as well as this is another PM peak hour. So there's some issues relative to the right in, right out. This explains and shows visually why the various agencies, IDOT and the county, or these types of arterials discourages the right in, right outs. This is the site plan. This will be my last slide. So again, they're proposing a right in, right out at this location. For the right out movement here, you're about 225 to 250 feet away from the intersection. We've never allowed a right in, right out this close to an intersection in the 33 years I've worked here, as well as since the access regulations were adopted by the county board. As such, we continue to say no to this. There have been discussions that the city staff has brought up to us about the possibility of a right in only at this location. And this is something that staff is going to be evaluating over the next month or two, is the possibility of a right in only at this location with the removal of the right out, no right out. This would be a variance to the county regulations, but it is something that we're looking at potentially coming back to the transportation committee with comments. In order to do a write-in, we've done this where the county board has granted variances for a write-in only, but we've also created some throat length in order to allow a couple vehicles to get into the site and allow for that movement. You could potentially put in a barrier here and allow for the write-in movement to come in at this location. We've done this on a number of locations to allow for some easy ingress off of Randall Road, because a right-in only could create rear-end accidents as a car turns in here, or two cars, and operationally it stops in the right turn lane here. So you could have some rear-end accidents, and we want to make sure to minimize that through the design. So these are some of the things we'll be looking at over the next couple months. That's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. I would say that just to kind of surmise, this is a high volume intersection, one of our highest in the county, and it is a limited access freeway, as Tom described. I've always sought to keep county board votes out of issues like this, and I'd rather let the ordinances and the IGAs and the engineering standards that we've established speak for themselves instead of legislating issues like this on a one at a time basis. But again, we are open to considering some variances in some cases. With that said, I'll open it up to comments from the committee.
Mr. Chairman Shepro,
Mr.
perhaps
Shepro?
it might be helpful to hear from the speakers before.
Well, I want to let the committee speak first. Any other comments from the committee?
Yes, I have some
Drew?
questions.
Okay,
Okay.
Ms. Wonicky, hold on. Mr.
Yeah.
Shepro, go ahead.
Tom, or Drew for that matter, are there any actual criteria that are used for determining whether or not a variance is given?
Tom, will you take that?
Yeah, I think that like criteria that are part of the regulations, no, there's no criteria within the regulations. There are situations where you know, the primary concern is the functional area of the intersection, and with the write-in at this location, this would be the least amount that we've granted since the access regulations were established by the county board. But it is something potentially that if we designed it correctly, there might be a consideration by, again, the county board for the access. We try to do our best to look at the internal circulation, but we will always look at safety first and try to do our best to make a recommendation. I know that doesn't exactly answer your question because there are no criteria. We're supposed to discourage it.
Actually, it does, but the resolution that was submitted by the city, was there any supporting documentation or submittal as to why the variance should be granted? As I read it, it just says they'd like it.
Yeah, and their traffic engineer is participating. He's going to give public comment, but there was documentation in the traffic study they submitted where they talked about the various access points within this intersection area. And we took a look at that documentation, and our feelings were is that the existing drives in this area that they were pointing to as part of their decision why it should be allowed, that we weren't really compelled by their traffic study, because most of the access points that they were looking at were on the outbound aspects of the intersection, or they were on Route 64. Route 64, the county board has no oversight of. It's an IDOT route, as well as the speed limit is lower than Randall Road. I think it's 35 miles per hour posted on Route 64. So we weren't really compelled. Most of the access points that they were looking at in the traffic study, again, were on the outbound, and our primary concern is on the inbound portion of the intersection because of the way you see how traffic backs up at a signal.
Were the existing points grandfathered, or would they predate the regulations?
The existing access points that you see here were prior to the regulations. So yeah, most of these were put in the 1960s, and probably late 1960s, most of these access points. We've done our best at the staff level over the last 30-35 years to remove or relocate some of these, and we've done quite a few. The 7-Eleven gas station here used to have 4 access points right on the corner, and we were able, as part of the Randall Road improvements, to move the access points further away. So we've done as much as we can. On the planning aspects for the northwest corner, we've done a lot of. We did the plan with St. Charles where all the buildings were pulled down, and we replanned the entire area in order to get rid of some of the safety operational concerns. So the only inbound access point that currently is on Randall Road that's near the intersection is for the title company here, and that's a very low traffic volume site. So So this site here is significantly different than what's being proposed at this location. And we did clean up this site when we did the improvements of Randall and 64 as best we could.
Thank you. I have some more, but I defer to other members.
Okay, Ms. Wodnicki?
Thank you, Chairman. You know, looking at the map, the overview of the map, there's a lot going on this corner. And the corner doesn't look like it's a lot of space for everything, for 10 pumps and a store, 4,000 square foot store. But I don't know if Tom would have the answer to this. Have they ever spoken about adding a car wash in the future? Because sometimes when we grant a petition like this, they come back later for an addition. And just wondering if it was ever talked about. Maybe that's a question for the petitioners. I'm not real sure.
Yeah, I don't believe a car wash is part of the current proposal. Is that correct, Jack?
That's correct. No car wash.
Okay.
Okay.
Tom, one question that's gone through my mind and maybe others, have we reviewed other proposals for this corner and turned down previous write-in, write-outs?
Yeah, we've always turned down write-in, write-outs historically. We did have once or twice we had a write-in only, and that write-in only again was on the northern part of the parcel. One of the proposal, BP actually offered to buy the southeast corner and eliminate all the access if they could get a write-in only. And the county, the committee at the time said, no, we don't want access at this location. So yes, historically, the county board committee process has not considered any access along Randall.
Other comments from within the committee?
This is John Martin. I have a comment.
Mr. Martin?
That I drive that intersection frequently, and kind of building on the existing regulations, when you come from the north and head south there, that intersection is and I know these aren't traffic terms, but that's like a launching ramp for everybody to get ready to go into the commercial area south of there. And my experience is that cars are constantly juggling and looking for faster ways through, and you've got that extra lane to the west edge, and I just can't feel comfortable with adding the possibility of a car slowing. And certainly if you talked about a ride out, that half of those cars that would be going in there would then be trying to get into a lane that could send them south and get off the turning lane. And it seems to me to be a quagmire of potential accidents. So I have trouble feeling comfortable with the request.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the committee?
I have another question.
Commissioner Weber.
Okay, Mr. Weber, go ahead.
So this intersection I drive through probably 20 times a week. It's very close to where I live. I'm in that area all the time. The Citgo 7-Eleven that's across the street, it's basically a mirror image of what is being proposed on this location as far as in and out access. It's identical. I would be interested to know, because I've never really seen any, how many accidents have happened coming out of that Citgo or turning into that Citgo off of Randall heading south. Like I said, it's a mirror image. Also, as a resident of St. Charles, if they're never able to have an ingress and an in and out at this location, then this property will never ever be able to be developed or create any revenue for anybody. That's what I got.
Okay, I don't know that we have the accident counts, but we can certainly get those. Tom, maybe you could just address how close, in fact, is the proposal to the existing gas station across the street to the south?
Berman, would like to make a comment?
Hold on one second, Dale. Tom?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, accident wise, I did look at how many accidents occurred in the last 10 years within 500 feet of the intersection. And it's 191 that have police reports. But I haven't looked at any type of detail. But we do average almost 20 accidents a year at this intersection within 500 feet of the intersection. As far as the mirror image, again, with Randall Road, it's a little bit different because this is the access they're requesting here is on the inbound movement to the intersection, while the 7-Eleven is on the outbound movement. And so the outbound movement, again, is a significant reduction in the safety concerns and operational concerns.
Okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Berman.
but
Okay,
Can I
Mr. Weber,
respond to
go
that,
ahead.
But the difference is the inbound to intersection, people are typically slowing down, because I go to that Sicko all the time too. When you leave the Sicko, you're leaving and the traffic is coming through the intersection. So when you're coming on to Randall from Sicko, those people are already getting up to speed, as opposed to if you're coming up to North Avenue on that side, you're slowing down because you're coming up to a light. So I think realistically, I think it's actually a better flow the way that this is showing on this side as opposed to Sicko side.
Okay, I'm going to call on Mr. Berman.
Yes, I was concerned on, when we came up with the development of 64 and Randall, at that point in time, I would think that there was a realization that we're going to landlock a piece of private property that somebody wouldn't be able to develop unless they had egress. And I'm wondering that, taking that into consideration, is it because of what we're talking about being a gas station with all this traffic, or that is the problem with, or could there be something else developed there that wouldn't have the traffic that a gas station has, and we would approve a right in, right out?
Well, this is a situation where we did have a plan. The city and the county came together and put together a plan to make sure ingress and egress was very similar to what's done throughout all the municipalities of Kane County. But in this case, what occurred was that Audi dealership took a little bit of precedent, and the city really wanted to make sure that the Audi dealership was accommodated in the form that they were requesting. And so when we brought that to their attention at the time and said, well, this isn't like we agreed to, the city said that they would make sure there would not be a right in, right out at this location. So it wasn't something that staff at Kane County created. It was something that was created by decisions in land use planning.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I would agree. If you go back to Tom's presentation, there is a series of access roads coming in from the north, and that improved future road to the north. And I would agree. I think the fact that we're talking about a gas station, which is lots of cars all day in and out, versus, for example, the title company,
right,
kitty corner from there is probably less cars in an entire day than a gas station would have in half an hour. So yeah, it's kind of a high volume thing. Something could be built there, possibly a gas station, but I think our standards and requirements lean towards a lower volume operation. And I'd also point out that, we always have to be conscious of precedent. We've already turned down similar things for this intersection, and we've had multiple similar circumstances up and down Randall Road and on other roads in the county. So always a concern of precedent. And then, of course, safety. We all want to help foster development, but there's the general safety of the public and the liability issues if we were to do something against our own longstanding standards. Any other comments from the committee?
Drew, Ken Shepro.
Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I've done a certain amount of development work, and to Mr. Berman's point, it is so glaring that the access was eliminated that I can't believe that the city would not have said something, or the owners have raised a point about access. And now, having gone through the intersection improvements, it seems to me that this is something that if they were really concerned about landlocking the property, there would have been a different outcome at the time of the original IGA. I find myself in agreement even to the terminology that Mr. Martin suggested. I drive that very often as well. And because of the downward slope, when you get to the top of the hill on your way down, a lot of times it seems almost as if people speed up voluntarily or involuntarily, you know, like you're sledding down the hill. I would be very concerned about, I think the pictures probably are worth the 10,000 words that the proverb says in terms of what the implications are. And I guess I agree with Mr. Weber that this is obviously an inhibitor on development, but it's a uniquely small piece. And I think the future problems would have been foreseeable at the time the city signed the agreement with the county.
Okay, I think I heard Mr. Caius wanting to comment.
Yes, just to revisit, are there any other comparables to this up or down Randall Road?
There are
close to this as we could visit.
Yeah, there are nothing comparable to this up and down Randall Road as far as the request. There have been no right-in, right-outs in the last 30 some years this close to an intersection granted by the county board.
We did have a somewhat similar thing, which we denied over at Kirk and 64 on the far opposite side of St. Charles, Kirk and 64 southbound, where the old Rigoli farm is. And I believe that somebody has worked something out to build there according to standards without the necessity of variances. Any other comments from the committee?
Well, Berman,
Mr. Berman?
as the Village North Aurora had an opportunity for a right-in, right-out on Orchard into the Auto Mall, and that was turned down by our transportation group. And of course, you know, we're always looking at trying to improve our business locations and give them an advantage, but not to the standpoint where it affects safety. So.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Chairman Frost, just one more for Tom. I know it's not in our county, but
This is Mr. Weber.
yes, sir, Mr. Weber. Route 59 in Stearns, there's a BP Amico that is identical to what is being proposed that obviously seems to work at that intersection. Just to offer that up as some evidence.
Okay, duly noted, but also note that's a different county. Okay, if there's no other comments right now, we can take them on anytime through this process.
May I ask a question, please?
Okay, Ms. Bates?
Just for my edification, is this, it seems like there's plenty of gas stations on this corner already. So do we need another gas station there? Is that a consideration of the Transportation Committee or not?
Well, as far as development, anybody can ask us for anything. It's really up to them as far as the marketability of a second gas station there. Apparently they know what they're doing and think that there could be. It is a major intersection. But we don't really dictate whether somebody can or can't do something if it fits the standards. So that's really an economic and marketing decision. If there's no other questions right now, I would like to go to our speakers that are signed up. I have a Jack Frigo and a Louis Abona. I assume that you are both the developers or developers representatives. If I'm not right, correct me, but I'll leave it up to you which one of you speaks first, but I would ask you to state your name and address clearly, and you have 3 minutes to make a comment.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. This is Jack Frigo. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and
okay.
spell your name.
Thank you. Thanks. My name is Jack Frigo. Address is 1559 Wincanton Drive in Deerfield, Illinois.
Can you
I
repeat that?
represent,
Please spell your last name and then maybe spell the street name.
sure. Frigo is Frigo. And the street, Wincanton, is Wincanton. Wincanton Drive in Deerfield.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Great.
Welcome, by the
Thanks
way.
much. I'm a real estate consultant to Samirsky Enterprises. Samirsky is the developer of the Audi Exchange, which is contiguous and just north of the Mercedes-Benz dealership. And we purchased about 26 acres at the northwest quadrant about 5 years ago. And this piece, this 1.79 acre piece, being one of the parcels. And as we have looked at the site, the Audi Exchange, which Tom had referenced, is under construction right now, just north of Mercedes. And the Woodward Drive will be extended from its current terminus all the way to Randall Road with a traffic signal there. One of the commissioners had mentioned the cars speeding up as they head southbound downhill on Randall Road. And there will be a traffic light at the Woodward Drive. So I think that will slow traffic that is southbound. Tom, if you'd be good enough to put the aerial back up that showed the entire intersection, that would be great. Thank you. So we have marketed this property, 1.79 acres, to numerous other parties. And the obstacle has always been the right in, right out, the access, the limited access. And so restaurants or combinations of restaurants and some other auto-related uses have all declined the property as a result of limited access on Randall Road. We have been working with GMX Real Estate Group and their client, Thornton's. The property is currently under contract to GMX, and it is conditioned upon obtaining a right-in, right-out for the site. If we get a right-in only, they can't make it work. It's not feasible for them. So we're seeking relief for this to obtain a right-in, right-out. And we think if any site would warrant it, we think that this site is an important site to get that consideration. As we understand the regulations, and as Tom and Kurt have explained to us over the couple of years, that the regulations probably wouldn't permit any of the development on any of the other three quadrants. So there's this existing conditions, and none of those quadrants would likely be developed, or certainly not as they are right now. We have some exhibits that we'd like to submit to the committee, and we'll follow whatever the appropriate protocol is through Tom or through the chairman to get those to you for consideration. And when we have a chance to speak to you again, we will. One other aspect of this, certainly the safety is a priority, and we think that this can be safe. Our traffic engineer, Louie Abuna, will address that. But this is an important economic development opportunity for the city and the county and the developer. In terms of, say, rough numbers, the city would benefit approximately $400,000 per year in fuel and sales tax, not counting increased property assessment values. And the county would benefit approximately $225,000 per year, both for fuel and sales tax. So we think that there's a lot of reasons why this should be considered. The IGA, which was done in 2006, I've read it, I understand it. I understand Tom's comments, and he's been great to work with. We worked with he and Kurt closely on the Woodward Drive extension, but we're hoping that we can design a right-in, right-out that will meet the safety requirements and really allow this property to be developed and be productive. It's been vacant for about 15 years, and we hope it's not vacant for the next 15. With that, I'd like to introduce Louie Abuna from KLOA. Louie is our traffic engineer and consultant.
Thank you, Jack. Again, my name is Luay Abuna, first name spelled Luay, last name Aboona. I'm a principal with KLOA. Address is 9575 West Higgins Road in Rosemont, Illinois.
Thank you.
I've been practicing traffic engineering for over 30 years. We've done numerous studies along Randall Road corridor. I've worked with Tom Rickard and Kurt Nika for many, many years. So I have a very good working relationship, and I understand the concerns and the points that Tom has made. This is obviously a very busy intersection, does carry a significant amount of traffic, and that's why a gas station like Thornton's wants to be located at that corner. Gas stations draw a majority of their traffic from the existing traffic. Studies done indicate anywhere between 60 and 70% of the traffic is already on the roadway system. So people are passing the site and they decide to fill up, they get into the gas station and then continue out in the same direction that they were headed. For that reason, having a right in, right out on Randall Road is very critical for the viability of the operation of the fuel station. Not having access on Randall Road at all, or even a right in only, will inhibit that ability and will force customers to make multiple maneuvers in order to exit the site. This is particularly true for this location because it's unlikely that this site will have a left turn out onto Main Street, given the proximity to the barrier median and the inability to make a left turn across multiple lanes. That would force customer traffic to have to go north and seek exit back onto Randall Road in order to go back south. And that typically will not happen because customers, again, are in and out for convenience and for quick fill up and again, head in the direction they were going. A right in, right out, while it doesn't meet the county requirements, is one of the least impactful designs of driveways on intersections. As has been pointed out already, there are multiple uses at the other corners of the site at the intersection that have similar conditions. And while Citgo is not necessarily on Randall Road, their right in, right out is on Main Street, it does have similar conditions in terms of proximity and within the influence of the queuing of traffic on Main at Randall. So we believe because of that existing conditions and the fact that accident data that, as stated by Mr. Rickard, over the past 10 years are not significant. 20 accidents a year for an intersection that carries between 50 and 60,000 cars a day is not a high accident location, which indicates that these access drives that currently exist are not creating points of conflict. So essentially, providing this access drive within close proximity to the intersection is necessary and should be provided for the following reasons. As previously mentioned, the access drive is consistent with the access drives on Randall Road, located within close proximity to the intersection of Main. The access drive will be restricted to right turns movement only. The direct access will be necessary to ensure the viability of the proposed fuel station. Allowing the right turns out is critical, as left turns out onto Main Street will not be provided. And then we are also will be extending the southbound right turn lane that is currently exists on Randall Road. We will extend that beyond the location of the right and right out, so to help alleviate the slowdown of the movements into the access drive and the potential of any backups that Mr. Rickard indicated that would impede the traffic on Randall Road. Finally, we also made a recommendation in the traffic study that we put out signage to prohibit people exiting the site from attempting to get into the left turn lanes on Randall southbound to eastbound on Main Street. We believe that would be the most critical movement that should not occur with the understanding of the queuing of the traffic that occurs on the multiple lanes on Randall Road. So we have recommended in the traffic study that those movements would be restricted during the rush hour, primarily between 7 and 9 and 4 to 6, and allow traffic to exit to go southbound on Randall Road only. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And you're both welcome back anytime. As we mentioned, this is just for discussion. and informational purposes for the committee, knowing that we'll probably have further discussion, or definitely have further discussion in the future. I would just, to clarify a couple of items, I would mention that, oftentimes in this discussion, it was the other buildings were mentioned, but you got to keep in mind those buildings were there from the late 60s, and the Sidco 7-Eleven was actually torn down and moved as far as possible south to make the new intersection work. So we're dealing with a greenfield site here that already has an IGA and a site plan on it that was previously agreed upon. With that, if there's no other comments from the committee, I'd like to move on to item 8A, project implementation. And Steve Koffenbarger from KDOT will take over.
Thank you, Chairman. The IMP report, as I like to call it, shows our either recently completed construction projects or our active construction projects. There's a handful of projects shown there on the construction stage. And then the multi-page document shows in alphabetical order our projects that are in phase 1 or phase 2 engineering. And those are called design highlights. Many of the more high profile projects have their own project specific websites with the links included in the report. Feel free to give me a call or email if you have questions that our websites don't answer for you, or if you have questions regarding projects that don't have a website. For the sake of time, Drew, unless there's any questions, I suggest we skip to item 8B for the resolution.
Okay, we'll take a motion and a second for resolution 8B. This is approving a contract for construction with Aldridge Electric. This is related to the Long Meadow Parkway tolling, signage and structures that hold the tolling equipment. I need a motion and a second.
Wonecki moves.
Moved by Wonecki, second by
Iqbal.
Okay, I think I heard Mr. Copey first, so moved by Wonecki and second by Copey.
Thank you.
Steve?
This project.
And Steve, we can barely hear you if you could speak closer to the mic.
Yes, this project, the bids were opened on January 12th. We received one bid. We reviewed that bid and had to make a few $100 correction to it. This project, as you mentioned, will install 2 gantries to hold the toll equipment, the various toll bridge related signage, and construct a small roadside building to hold the toll collection equipment. Low bidder was Aldridge Electric, and at $1.3 million in change, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, so when we talk about the gantry, this is the large lattice type structure that goes over the road and holds all the equipment, just like you see on the tollway. I have a motion and a second. Is there questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Dr. Iqbal, go ahead.
No, sorry, I don't have any comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Caius.
Mr. Caius, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint you, Drew. Let's speak up. Steve, we got just one bid on this project, on this particular project,
One bidder, correct.
and we can accept it even though there's no competing bid?
Yes, they're a qualified bidder. They're within a reasonable amount of our engineers' estimates, and staff definitely recommends approval. Aldridge Electric is a known electrical engineer and does this similar work for the Illinois Tollway, who I reached out to while this was going through the bidding process, and they mentioned Aldridge was one that had done a lot of work on their toll locations also. Fortunately, we received a bid from them.
So it sounds like it was a fairly specialized process and their equipment, piece of equipment. They have the experience with the tollway.
Just one more comment.
You're combining the gantry structures with a roadside building construction, but we've got a large agency in our backyard, the Illinois Tollway, so there are construction companies that are looking for this type of work and are used to it.
Mr. Caius, additional comments?
Of course, excuse me. Of course, on behalf of my constituents who oppose a toll on this bridge, I will be voting no, and I encourage other members of the committee to do so as well. I think that the toll and constituents in my district think that this is a burden and something that's required on just the northern part of the county that we drive through just to get across our town. We think it's unfair, and we also encourage the committee and the transportation department to find a alternate source of maintenance fees beyond extending the toll for the remainder of my lifetime and what will be a long time before, or continuing.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Igbo,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon, Caius,
Caius, no.
Kopi,
Kopi, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Warnicki,
Wonecki, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Steve, did you have anything back on the imp report, or we continue moving down the line here?
Continue moving down, thank you.
Okay, so next I'll take a motion and a second to place our various reports we've heard today on file.
Berman moves.
Okay, moved by Mr. Berman, second by
Caius,
Mr. Caius. Roll call.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Igbo,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Kenyon, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kopi,
Kopi, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Warnicki,
Wonecki, yes.
Okay, the reports are placed on file. We do have need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue. So I'll ask for a motion and a second to go into executive.
I move for executive, Berman.
Mr. Berman moves, second by
Iqbal,
Dr. Iqbal seconds. Roll call.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Igbo,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kopi,
Kopi, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Warnicki.
Wonecki, yes.
Okay, we will give us a few minutes here to move into executive session.
Yes, everybody online, we will need a couple of minutes here to get things moving. If you get a notice on your screen that you're invited to the breakout room or executive session, please accept that because we will have to wait until you join us. And then bear with us as we move the technology into that way.
Can I ask what the basis for the executive session is?
That personnel.
Personnel is not a valid exception.
How about contracts?
No. You have to, personnel, you have to state, is it the compensation of a specific employee, et cetera?
Okay, I was busy pulling the shutter down. We're moving into executive session to discuss a contract and reappointment of our county engineer.
So that is a specific employee, and I would just suggest that the record should reflect that as the basis for the closed session.
Okay, duly noted.
Isn't that, that's included in our minutes, is it not?
Now, you have to state a motion to go into closed session. You got to state the specific exception for the request. I mean,
My motion was to move the resolution to go into go into executive session to discuss the resolution. Now, I didn't make it specific, but that's what I inferred.
Okay, so we're going into executive session.
Not quite there yet.
Not quite yet. Still working on getting the Zoom connection set up right.
Okay, if there's anybody on the phone or on their computer that hears my voice that feels they should be in the executive session, please speak your case.
Shepro,
Do you have an invite on your screen you need to click?
If I had my glasses on, I would have seen it better.
I'm showing you should have received one. Mr. Shadle, Mr. Ford.
Blair, I'm gonna not join the executive.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Molina. Molina Ford. Anybody else that should join?
Is Mr. Jager on?
Yes.
Okay, so
So hold on a second.
should be Mr. Jager and Mr. Rickard from KDOT.
Okay. Blair, can you hear me? This is Barbara.
Yes, we can.
Do I have to sign out and sign back in for the next meeting for county development?
No,
Or can
you
I
won't.
just remain on my phone?
You can stay where you're at.
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Or you could put it on speaker and go eat, have a snack.
Do you mean take it off the speaker and go have a snack?
Well.
You should be good. I think, just double check, make sure everybody can.
Okay, we're back in open session. And I assume everybody is back. It looks like we are. And I will take a motion in a second to pass the resolution 10A.
So moved by Kenyon.
Okay, moved by Mr. Kenyon, second
Berman, second.
by Mr. Berman. Comments or questions? The only comment I would make is, Carl, we would like to have your resume submitted just for informational purposes to the committee at some point in the near future.
Will do, sir.
Any other comments or questions on this item? If not, we'll do a roll call.
Berman,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Kenyon, yes.
Tyus,
Tyus, yes.
Hopi,
Opie, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Wonicky,
Wonicky, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. And item 11 is public comment. We have nobody in attendance. We already heard from a couple of people on one issue. Is there anybody online that would like to speak to this committee? Okay,
Move
hearing
for
none.
adjournment.
I got a motion to
You
adjourn
moving?
by Mr. Berman, second by, is that
You
Mr.
need
Kofi?
help?
He's already come over here. He said you said him.
I did.
I need a second.
Thanks.
Second
Okay.
by Wonicky.
Okay, moved by Berman, second by Wonicky to adjourn. Roll call? Okay, we can do a voice vote. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Catch you later.
This is John Martin as chairman of the next committee. My watch says that it's 10:22, and I will bring the meeting back at 10:25.
Mr. Martin, I may need just a little more time than that to reset everything. So maybe 10:30 or thereabouts.
Oh, my God. Oh,
You have a busy day, Mike?
well, yeah. It
Okay,
can be.
everybody online, if I could interrupt for a second, if you are here for the development committee, this will be the same Zoom room for that meeting. So just go ahead and sit tight. We are going to turn off the audio here in the boardroom for a few moments, and we'll bring it back on before we start the meeting. If you need anything in the meantime online, go ahead and message the host, and I will try to keep an eye on the chat.